So in this video, I'm going to talk about solar power generators or solar power stations for RC use. Which is this device right here. It's a generator basically, but you can use solar panels to charge it. So when you're outside and the sun is up, you can charge these. You can also charge them at home so that they're fully charged when you get to the track if you're practicing or racing. Just want to kind of touch bases because there's so many different ones at so many price points out there. There's just some things that you don't know if you're purchasing the right thing for your application. So right as you see, I have my tire warmers, I have my charger, then I have my soldering iron right here also. These are all pieces of equipment or tools that you'll use at the track. If you're using the tire warmers to heat your tires, if you're charging your battery, that's going to be the main thing. You're definitely going to be charging your battery off of this, and I'm going to show, because this has a readout and it'll show you how many watts are being drawn. So therefore you can use that to figure out which type of power station you're looking at. And these aren't for everyone. These are for people that you don't have room for a gas generator in your vehicle, or it won't fit in your pack, whatever you're going to do. So the size of them, like I said, there's various ones out there with different sizes, different capacities. I'm going to try and touch bases on a little bit of everything in this video. And this is not a in-lab technical video. This is just basically the research that I've done in the field using this at races and at practices. So I can try and give you some numbers that'll put you in the right direction as far as what you're looking for. Because like I said, there's so many out there that you might think you're getting a good one, and it's not gonna quite meet the needs that you are looking for. So I'm just gonna discuss that in this video. And these are basically my opinions, my research. There's no scientific data behind it. It's just from what I've learned using it. Okay, so this is the solar power generator, power station that I have now. This one's it's a decent size. It has a display screen on it also that gives you some information. It's also Bluetooth capable, so it has an app that you can control some of the functions with on this one. Now this is my fourth one. This isn't my first one, but this is my fourth one. So here's the first one. This is the first one I had, which you can see it's considerably smaller, right? So this one has 299 watt hours, and then this one has 768 watt hours. So the more watt hours you have, the more battery packs you can charge, the more equipment that you can run longer. So with this one, I could use it also to do everything at the track. I just had to adjust some of my parameters to make this one work. With this one, the bigger one, I don't have to adjust as many parameters. I can kind of use my equipment how I want to. So that's one thing you also got to look at is watt hours, and there's also the thing, an inverter. Now that's the thing that when you have everything running, that shows your wattage. And that's where it's gonna determine which one of these works best for you because of the inverter size. The inverter size will dictate whether you can run your tire warmers and charge your battery, or if you have to charge your battery and then run your tire warmers, or if you can run everything. So inverter size is something you have to kind of keep in mind when you're looking for one of these, because like I said, there's so many of them that you can buy one thinking you're getting a good deal, but the inverter isn't big enough, so therefore you can't run everything you need to. That's kind of what happened with this one. That's why I started venturing and looking at other ones, and I finally figured out what inverter size I need to really look at. Okay, so the inverter size. So this one, my first one, has a 300 watt inverter. The new one has a 1,000 watt inverter. So there's different inverters up down the field. You can get a 100 watt inverter to 2,000 watt inverters. Different prices also. So what I've learned from me having this one And then the other ones that I bought, I've learned that for RC wise, you can get away with a 300 watt inverter, but like I said, you might not be able to do your tire warmers and charge your battery at the amperage you want to charge it at. You be able to charge your battery, you might turn the amperage down and do your tire warmers. That's where the inverter size comes in. What I've learned is a 600 watt inverter. Now, with these inverters, they will say 600 watt is what you're looking for. Sometimes they'll give like a boost or a extra boost in the inverter size to jump it up to 1200. You don't really want to look at those. Those aren't pertaining to us in RC. They're for home appliances. So you kind of want to stick at that 600 watt inverter. If you're going to try and use your tire warmers, charge at about 30 amps and use your soldering iron. That 600 watt inverter will allow you to do most of that. And like I said, I have this screen with this one right here. I'll show you a demonstration on how many watts are being drawn when I'm doing everything at once, so you can see. But as far as inverter size go, if you get a 600 watt inverter, you basically should be able to do most of the stuff that you're gonna do at your pit table when you're racing or practicing or whatever needs it is. So, but that's what I found out with this one, with that 300 watt inverter. It limited me on doing everything that I wanted to at one time. Okay, so let's do a demonstration of what the wattage draw is, and it will help you better understand why you're looking at least a 600 watt inverter. Tire warmers especially, because you might get a deceptive reading because they heat up. So then the wattage draw will stay higher a little longer. So I'm gonna go ahead and start those, and then I'll zoom you guys in to the screen right here so you can see. So as you see with the tire warmers going, it's taking 117 watts. They're just heating up, so they're going to get up to temperature. That wattage might change. So with that being said, right there, if you have a 100 watt inverter, you can't even really use your tire warmers, right? So that's 117 watts for your tire warmers, and that will vary with the temperatures that you're using for your tire warmers. All right, so now with it at 117 heating up the tire warmers, let me put my battery on charge at 30 amps. And as you see, as the charger ramps up to 30 amp charge, now you see I'm at 380 watts. So now we're still within that 600 watt inverter range, but 300 watt inverter, we're automatically past it. And that's only 30 amps. So if you're charging at 40 or 50 amps, that number will be higher. So now that is my tire warmers going and my battery charging. So now if I were to plug a soldering iron in and also use it, now you see it has reached 420 watts roughly. So right now I have the tire warmers, battery charging, and my soldering iron going, and I'm right around that 420 watt range. So if I had a 300 watt inverter, would not work. And that was the problem I was running into, because the 300 watt inverter would shut off. So therefore I had to change my charge amperage. I would turn that down. So like if I go in here and I change my charge amperage to 20 amps, that number, there, I changed my charge amperage to 20 amps. So now once that gets a 20 amp charge, as you see my number now, I'm at 280-ish. So therefore, a 300 watt inverter would work with that, with tire warmers, charge, and soldering iron on. So that's why it's important to look at the inverter, how it is a regular, not that boost or peak boost or anything like that. So now let's see what the tire warmers are doing. Or just the, so if I turn off my tire warmers and I'm just charging at 20 amps, I'm at 187 with the watt draw. So that gives you guys a demonstration of the inverter and what it's doing and what kind of wattage you're looking for. So if you're trying to charge high, you want to kind of stay at that 600 watt inverter range. If you're charging at 10, 20 amps, you possibly could get away with a 300 watt inverter looking at those numbers that were just shown. Of course, those numbers are going to vary with your charger and then your soldering iron. Those numbers will vary, but it'll still be within that range somewhat. So right here, I'm going to show you guys what a 50 amp charge watt draw looks like. So as soon as this ramps up to 50 amps, I'll show you what that wattage draw looks like. Which, as you see now, you're at close to 500 watt. So that's where having a 600 watt inverter comes in. Because right now, I am at 500 watts. If I had a 300 watt inverter, I could not do that. But if I have a 600 watt inverter, I'm still okay because I have 100 watts left on that inverter. Now, you also have to remember when doing this, your actual power supply. What it is capable of, because I cannot do my tire warmers and charge at 50 amps because of the power supply. Not the power station, but the power supply. So you also have to be mindful of that. But that's what a 50 amp charge looks like as far as the wattage that it will draw. And therefore, that's why I suggest a 600 watt inverter. Because that 600 watt inverter, it would allow you to charge and do tire warmers pretty much at will. Okay, now that I've demonstrated to you what the watt draw is when you're using your tire warmers, charging the battery, and soldering iron, you saw those numbers that were there. And also I showed you a 50 amp charge, which was over 500 watt draw. So that's why I suggest a 600 watt inverter in case you are trying to charge at 50 amps, 40 amps. You have an inverter big enough to charge that. Now I'm going to show you how to charge up the power station, which, as I said earlier, it can be used via solar panel, or you can plug it into the wall or your generator, your buddy's generator, and charge it back up. The benefit of having this is, like, if you're charging at 50 amps, you're not killing your buddy's generator because this isn't plugged in. It's self-contained, so it's only pulling 50 amps from here. But when you plug it in, it will, the input will change. I will show you on here when it's plugged in what the input wattage looks like. The benefit of having an app is, an app controlled one is it will have an adjustable input charge wattage. So this has a silent mode, normal, and a turbo. So on silent, it charges at about 200 watts. Normal, it charges at about 400 watts. And turbo, it charges at 900 watts, which, as you saw, 50 was 500 watts. So if you're charging this on full blast on your buddy's generator, it's going to suck it dry, because you're going to be charging, the wattage is going to be like roughly probably like 950 watts. And if his generator is only like a 1200 or 2000 watt generator, you're sucking half of that. So that's where having the app and being able to adjust that input wattage is handy. Also, I will show you the one thing that these aren't geared for is RC. So once you plug them in to charge, the voltage, the wattage, it just goes up. So like I'm plugging this in, it's gonna start charging. Let me get you guys in. So as you see, it says 282 watts right now it's charging at. So now when I charge my battery, the input wattage changes. As you see, it's spiking high right now. So this is what you would be drawing from a generator, is that many watts versus just whatever your battery is charging at. But if you unplug it, and you just charge your battery off of that, that's the wattage that you're drawing. So that's where it comes in, the benefit of having different AC charge input levels. Because then, like, once you guys are ready for your race, you can plug it in and let it charge while you're racing, turn marshaling, or whatever. Or when you're done charging or using it, you can charge it back up with your buddy's generator, and you're not gonna kill his generator in case he is trying to also do some stuff. But see, it dropped right back down once I stopped charging. But that's how you charge these devices up. All right, so I've touched on bases just to kind of give you a general direction of what you're looking for when looking for a power station of this type. So a couple things I have noticed. When you are trying to get one that does have a screen or a controlled app, or it's Bluetooth or wireless, just sitting there, they're gonna drain a little bit of power because they have all those functions that are running also on the battery inside. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it will still just kind of drain a little bit of the battery. Capacity wise, so this is a 768 watt hour. I've been able to charge discharge packs to charge anywhere from 5,300 milliamps to 5,500 milliamps. I've been able to do 10 packs. Each pack takes about 10%. On this is roughly like 9 on this particular power station. So on my old one, that was the 299 watt hours, I could get 4 packs. So if you're running one class, you know, you could practice. Top offer packs, don't discharge them, and you could possibly make that race day because you're only doing 2 qualifiers in a main. This one I've ran 3 classes. So I've discharged, charged, discharged, charged. I was able to make it right before the mains. I possibly could have made the mains, but I charged it back up. So you do get enough packs out of it. It's a formula that you kind of got to figure out for yourself. If you're running lower milliamp packs, it won't take as much. So that's the formula you kind of got to figure out for yourself. And what I've learned is it's roughly between 65 and 75 watt hours per pack that you're gonna kind of absorb. So if you take that number, you can kind of say, if I get a 500 watt hour power station, I know I'm going to get about 6 packs or whatever out of it, by looking at those numbers, because you also have to take into account everything else that's running that's also going to absorb some of those watt hours up. I think anywhere from a 500 watt hour to 1,000 watt hour battery, you can potentially make race days depending on how many classes you're running, your battery size, and how are you doing your battery. Are you just charging them after your race, or are you discharging them? But so watt hours, that's there's so many out there that range from 300 watt hours, 1,000 watt hours, 1,500 watt hours. Those all change as it goes between different power supplies. The one thing you have, like I said, you have to remember when you're trying to get the fancier ones that have all the gauges and everything, they will also suck some juice when you're just letting them sit there and they're at idle. Versus like my first one where it was basically, here, I'll show you. It's basically, there's really nothing to it. You turn it on and it gives you a little readout right here, and that's it. So it's not sucking juice like this one with all the technology in it. But like I said, this one I had to kind of change parameters to use it, but you can still use it. Like I said, there's plenty of them out there to choose from. Key things to look for is a 600 watt inverter, which will allow you to run a lot of your RC equipment, and then the watt hours will range. So you can get a 600 watt inverter and it can be 250 watt hours. So you're only going to get a couple packs out of that. But you're able to plug that in and charge it up. Also, a benefit of using this versus being plugged into your buddy's generator or plugged into the power is you can draw as much as you want on this, and it doesn't affect the electrical of where you're at or their generator. So both you guys can be charging at 30 amps and the generator isn't working hard. So, and like I said, it's not for everyone, but it's for people that if you don't want to get a gas generator, or you can't afford a gas generator, and you can't fit a gas generator, you can purchase one of these different sizes and be able to have your own sustainable power supply while you're practicing or racing or bashing or whatever it may be that you're doing. So I think I've pretty much touched bases on most of the stuff. And like I said, I'm not no scientist. This wasn't research. This is just stuff from me at the track and at home, experimenting and testing to see what numbers I was looking at to purchase a actual decent one that I use. And I use this one a lot. Most races I go to, I take it with me just so I have it in case there is an issue with power, or I'm pitted and I can't get power. At least I'll have some power and I can change my race program so I can use this for the whole day. So thank you guys very much. Hopefully that helps somebody out if you're looking at these. If you're not, or if you had your eye on them and you had questions about them, hopefully I answered some of those questions that at least point you in the right direction. Thanks for listening, guys.